about the way that you deliver a message and caring about the people whom you engage with verbally and non-verbally. These modules were created to teach skills to improve your communication, body language, and adapt your way of thinking when faced with difficult conversations. Today, we'll explore how empathy plays a part in helping donors, clients, and others feel seen, heard, and appreciated. This course will be tailored around the donor ambassador role for scenarios and examples, as it was prepared by the Biomedical Volunteer Workforce Engagement Operations team. However, this training can be useful in other lines of service, as well as in your personal life. You will be encouraged to come off mute and use the chat option and interact throughout the presentation. Please feel free to raise your hand using the hand icon if you would like to speak at any point during this presentation. All right, so we have some Red Cross Caring Communication Visibility Goals. Making caring visible by incorporating skills, initiatives, and behaviors, serving internal and external customers at a level in every interaction, creating a caring culture every day. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feeling of another. Empathy is not easy, but we are all born with the capability to be empathetic. It is something that we learn to apply through our lives and experiences to support compassion, communication, connection, listening, and many other parts of our lives. Although it may come more naturally for some of us, while others may need a little extra practice, it may be difficult for us to utilize empathy when faced with many challenges in our day-to-day lives. So let's go ahead and talk about this. What do these images mean to you? Go ahead and come off mute if you feel comfortable, or put your answers in the chat. Which of these images might speak to you? Do any of these look like they might be a part of your daily routine? You know, is this how you might feel at work or while volunteering? Is this how the donors might feel? Are you just going through the motions? Sometimes. Okay, thank you, Brenda. Elise says worried, stressed, and tired. They all say stress to me. You're right, Amy. Brenda says a million things go through my head. I'm with you there. Jennifer says stressed, overwhelmed, frustrated, sad. Worried or stressed, overwhelmed, all stressed because their life routine, stressed, anxiety, frustration, overwhelmed. Bottom left, always worried I'll forget something. I know, Rhonda. First one, taking care of a loved one, alone. Cherise says lots of things to do. Yeah, so the truth is that it could be all of these things, right? Life is hard, especially now. Stress, long hours, more can all be a factor in how you feel and how you interact with team members, volunteers, donors, friends, and family. In difficult times, it can be easy to feel like your empathy battery is running low. While you may genuinely want to help, you may not feel like you have energy for others, problems, or needs. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Helen, and she's going to take us away with some strategies to help keep those empathy batteries full.
Reframing allows you to rethink a situation through other people's point of view. Doing so can make it easier for you to communicate in a caring way without draining your own resources. As a blood donor ambassador, you are always customer service oriented. You are asked to greet donors with a positive attitude and a smile. Yet sometimes you may have had a hard week, a hard day, or even had difficult donor to deal with. Reframing with empathy allows you to see a situation from different perspective. Instead of thinking that this donor is upset at you a certain way for a certain situation, when you reframe with empathy, you change your mindset. You begin to understand that how they are treating you is not a reflection of you, but them. This allows for the literal breathing room to actually take a few breaths and begin to empathize. When we empathize, we put ourselves into someone else's shoes. We don't know where those shoes have been. Perhaps a donor just got in an argument with their spouse. Perhaps they encountered a plethora of traffic on their way in. Empathy gives us insight into improve someone else's mood and to support them through challenging situations. And in turn, it uplifts our own mood and re-energizes our mental battery. Engage your caring communication muscle. Reframing involves acknowledging and accepting the feelings of others without judgment or the need to fix a situation. A vital part of this process is expressing that emotions someone feels are normal and understandable. Here are some examples of empathy that validate emotions. It's completely natural to feel upset in this situation. Anyone in your position would likely feel the same way. It's completely understandable that you would feel anxious about this. Can anyone think of other empathy statements? You can throw them into the chat or come off mute.
We don't have anything coming through yet.
Adopting an attitude of acceptance means respecting the person's feelings, personal values, and experiences as valid, even if they are different from your own or you don't agree with them. That's the power of reframing. And we're so lucky our minds come equipped with such a muscle. So flex your caring communication muscle. The steps to
We have
reframing.
one that did
Oh,
come through. Sorry.
great.
Sherry Dawn, she said, I'm sorry you're going through this.
Excellent. Love it. The steps to reframing are as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, consider what the other person has done to be there. 2, picture yourself in their shoes and talk with them, not at them. Match their verbal cues. Meet enthusiasm with enthusiasm. Meet calm with calm. Meet fear and anxiety with urgency. Meet frustration with calm listening. Put yourself in their shoes, talking to them helps you get a feel for what's going on. Be sure to pay attention to their body language, match their nonverbal cues if they look fatigued or they look anxious. Also pay attention to the tone of voice that they may have. Try to match that same energy, not in a negative way, but in a way that balances out the situation. If you notice that a donor is noticeably anxious or uncomfortable, perhaps you can say, I understand exactly how you feel. Or if you don't have experience, perhaps you can say, it's worth it. Your courage will save 3 people's lives. Do you have an example of a situation like this that you needed to navigate in this way and what you said? Please feel to share and come off mute or throw something in the chat.
While those are going, we had a few more examples come through for the previous slide for empathy statements. So I'll go ahead and read those as you guys start thinking about this. Okay. So we have one from Mina. It says, I can imagine how difficult that must be for you. Paraphrase what they said. It must be so hard from Melody.
Great.
Another one from Mina. It sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed and I'm here to support you. These are really great. We have another one here. It says, I understand that this must be an inconvenience, but thank you so much for showing up today. I appreciate you for being here. And then Tricia said, I appreciate you being here today. And then Megan says, your feelings are valid. How can I best support you? Great.
Love
So
it.
does anyone want to come off mute maybe and share an example of a situation that you needed to navigate using the 1, 2, 3 reframing steps?
Hi, I had a donor last week that actually was really stressed. She was having trouble with technology. She was, just almost frantic. And then, it's just, I said, well, first of all, thank you for being here, but just take a breath. it's okay. I'm here to help, but take a breath, just breathe. And then she just kind of stopped and took a breath, and then we moved on.
That's great. Breaths are very powerful.
Yeah, and it looks like Tom went ahead and raised his hand as well. Tom, do you want to come off mute and go ahead and share your experience?
Yeah, several times, especially when you're doing volunteer work with the high schools, a lot of the kids are really super nervous. They don't like needles. They're ready to faint. They're just very much drama involved. And so it's just the idea of, thanking them and calming them down from the standpoint of just saying that they're saving a life and they're doing a good thing, and it's not that bad, and you'll really enjoy it. You'll be very proud, feel accomplished. And so it's kind of building them up a little bit, even though they're extremely nervous, especially in the high school settings.
Yeah, you're right, Tom. Those high
Yes.
schools can be really hard. Okay, and then we also have another one in the chat. It says, when a donor does not want to do anything that they do not feel comfortable in, never force them to do what they do not want to do. That's from Caesar. And then looks like Mina had something to say too. Mina, you want to go ahead and come off mute?
Yeah, so I want to add like something like it's not only about showing like you understand what the donor or what anyone like going through or showing them that it's also like about like showing them it's like you are here available like to listen or to hear from them or what are they going through. So it's not only just showing them that you understand their pain or their feelings. It's also about like showing them that you are here like to support them, to deal with the issue with them, and listen to what they are feeling, what are they are going through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Sherry Dawn kind of elaborated on what Tom was saying, where she likes to share with high schoolers why I donate. So if you haven't been one that's come up with too much stuff to help ease those donors or the high schoolers, Sherry Dawn likes to share that reasons why she donates with them. All right, it looks like Letitia has her hand up. Letitia, do you feel like coming off mute and going ahead and speaking?
Thank you. About a week ago, I was at a drive and they were short a staff person. They had called in sick. So we were getting really behind. It was like 30 to 45 minutes behind. And so I did let the donors know and offer them they could either reschedule or, if they wanted to run an errand real quick or get something to eat. Because, I mean, it is a while to wait. So a few people did. Most of them did not want to reschedule because they said, "Oh no, they had already made plans for this day to do it." So that was good. Several of them did do their errands and then return.
Yeah. Yeah, long wait times can be really difficult for donors.
Absolutely.
All right, we have a couple more in the chat and then we'll move on. So Melissa says, it is important to hear them, respect the way that they were able to express their fear or anxiety, talk to them about it, and reframe your words and your posture as you try to ally their fear, anxiety, or is it a lay? Their fear and anxiety, and ask you what you can do to support them through the process, including respecting their choices to leave. Wow, Melissa, that's great. And then we have another one, and it says,
I'm on
Addie.
mute, no picture and no. It is.
And then adding to what was said, but donors really appreciate when they see you actively trying to resolve the problem and trying to accommodate their needs. I can say as a donor myself, that's true. I like to feel heard. I'm sure many of us on here are donors, and they also, like to feel heard and they like to be accommodated a little bit, a little pampered, right? And Melody added setting up what their expectations are can calm their calm their fears. I'm so sorry, Melody. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. That's it, Ellen. Your turn.
Thank you all so much. So you touched upon this here, this next one. We want to seek to consider each donor's why for donating. Each donor has their own reason. Be careful not to assume you know their why. When introducing yourself, ask, what inspired you to donate today? Doing so will help the donor feel seen and cared for, while also giving you a conversation starter to reference throughout the donation. You never know what you might find out about a donor. Oftentimes, donors might have a story that they really want to share with you. You might find that they at one point needed blood themselves, or they had a loved one that could not live without it. Once I was in the donor center near my house and I was helping out before a volunteer came, and a young female donor came in to donate, and she looked really nervous. So I tried my best to calm her down, and then I later found out her why. And her why was because she was coming for a first-time direct donation for her brother, who was desperately in need of blood for a surgery that he was having a couple days later. So feel comfortable to ask, is there something in particular that inspired you to donate today? Would any of you donors on the call like to share what inspires you to donate, or stories that you might have heard from donors that you've checked in? Please feel free to come off mute or raise your hand or throw something in the chat.
All right, so it looks like Jacqueline has something to say. Go ahead and come off mute, Jacqueline.
So my husband and I always donate together, and I always tell everybody that it's my idea of a great date night, because we go donate blood together and then he'll buy me dinner or lunch.
Ooh.
It's something we can do together, which is great for us.
Very sweet.
You know, that, Jacqueline, that's one of my goals in my marriage. My husband does not like needles, and I was a collections tech for 3 years, and he would never come and donate for me, and he has amazing veins. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, well, we could save lives together without putting ourselves in danger. And I think one day I'm going to get him. One day I'm going to get him. So, looks like we have something in the chat. So it says, Caitlin said, my dad is a regular blood donor and inspired me to start donating. Wow. Yeah. Someone else's passion for something that really does inspire us sometimes. Gerald says, when my wife and I donate platelets, we call it a datelet. Aw, that's so fun.
Oh, a datelet. I love
Datelet.
it.
Amy says, my father donated blood every 56 days, adding up to more gallons than I can remember. Wow. He is no longer with us. I have leukemia and cannot donate. Oh, Amy, I'm so sorry.
Aww.
But being an ambassador is my way to honor him. Wow, Amy. That's an impact. I got goosebumps from that one.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Amy.
It's really awesome. Dawn says, my mom is going through leukemia. Wow. And needs blood transfusions every 6 weeks. I'm getting teary-eyed, guys. These are some really powerful shares here. I was an active platelet donor until I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Wow. Dawn, I'm sorry for your diagnosis. And then it looks like Gay McDaniels, who says, such an easy way to support others in the community and make such a difference is truly can save people's lives. It's just such an empowering statement. Wow, you guys are good at this.
They have a lot of experience.
Yeah, it looks like Sherry Dawn has something to add. Go ahead and come off mute, Sherry Dawn.
Hi, I used to be a blood donor. I can't anymore because I'm going through cancer treatments, but I would tell especially high schooler kids, the reason that I would donate is because my firstborn son was born with 3/4 of a heart. And I just kind of feel like my son would be honored for me to donate blood, but since I can't anymore and I really can't be so much a donor ambassador, but I do help schedule uh, volunteers, donor ambassadors here in Idaho, so I can do some background work, even though I can't really so much go out in the field. I'm just so grateful I can do that.
Well, we're grateful for you for assisting. You know, I'm from Northern California and Helen's from Southern California, but we're one Red Cross, right? So, thank you for helping and continuing to help. You know, whether you can do it in person or do it virtually, like your support really does make a difference. And I'm really sorry you can't be in person, but maybe one day again.
Maybe someday. I'm on maintenance therapy right now, where I take 2 pills in the morning and 2 pills at night, and then I have to go in for an infusion once every 3 weeks, and that'll pretty much be for the rest of my life with the type of cancer I've got.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So, we'll just kind of see what the Lord has in plan for me, has in store.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank you for everything you've continued to do.
I just sometimes feel bad for my supervisor, Amanda, because she has to put up with me,
No.
put up with my
Oh,
quirky sense of humor.
no, well,
I'm
thank you
sure she
for,
enjoys it.
yeah, and I know Amanda, some from meetings and stuff. She's pretty quirky herself. I'm sure you guys get along really well. Well, thank you
Yeah, I think,
for being so strong and sharing that with us.
oh, not a problem.
Just to clear up the chat a little bit here, we have Blanca. She said, as a 3-time blood recipient myself, thank you to all those who donate blood. Wow. Gay McDaniel says, a perfect example of why those of us who can donate must. And then Caesar says, I have worked in the operating room and I know how important blood is. So I am a donor as well as I started to volunteer my hours at Red Cross for retirement. Wow. Thank you, Caesar.
Mhm.
And Sherry Dawn, this one's for you. Elise says, thanks for helping get our shifts filled. And that is a huge help. That is helping others support. That's amazing.
It is my
I
pleasure to do.
And I would say, you know, one impactful story for me too, and it really did make me get on that blood donation bed. I have pretty low hemoglobin, so I don't get to donate that often. I'm currently breastfeeding, so again, I can't donate that often, but I keep this story in the back of my mind. I as you know, I've said it a couple of times, was a phlebotomist for a few years with Red Cross. And one of my donors came in, and we didn't see him very often. He had a very colorful personality, so we knew who he was. He started coming very regularly. He even started doing platelets. Well, at a previous blood bank in our area, they used to give out these license plate covers, and they would say 10 gallons, 5 gallons. I think they started at 5, 10, and they just keep going in increments of 10 after 10. And his license plate cover had cracked. So he just put it on his car really quick while he waited for the other one to get in so his license plate wasn't just hanging there. And he went to a Home Depot or, Lowe's, some store like that, and somebody had written a note on a receipt that wasn't from that store. He's not sure where they got it. It was all crumpled up, and he thought he got a ticket. So, of course, he was pretty mad. He threw that receipt in his floorboard, and he didn't look at it for a couple weeks. When he was cleaning out his car, he noticed there was something written on it. And this made him become a blood donor. So it was a thank you message from a mother who had a child who had passed away from cancer, but they were able to hold on to him for 5 additional years because of the amount of blood donations that he received from donors like him. And she saw his placard, and she doesn't know if, her son ever received that blood from him, but she does know that people like him are the reason why that her son was able to stay alive with her as long as he was. And so she wrote it. She put it on his car, and he said it really touched him, and it made him not only come back on a regular basis, but also start doing platelet donations every couple weeks so he can do it throughout the year. So that because he knows now, he was able to put a face to it. So. So Helen, I don't see anything else in the, oh, one more, and then we'll move on. I learned my blood type in training to be a medical technologist. That was a big word. O negative, med techs type and send blood to surgery for patients. Wow. I learned the need for blood by handing it out. I've been a donor since learning I am a universal donor. Yeah. Wow. Dwayne, that's impactful. And Rich Jen says, who's cutting all the onions? You're right. I'm about ready to cry too. And we have another one that says, my mom donates blood and platelets and inspires my family to do the same. Learning about Red Cross and its life-saving assistance around the world inspires me to continue as a donor ambassador and to donate blood. As an ambassador, it always amazes me just how committed donors are. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, Helen, I think it's your turn.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing those wonderful comments about your donations. So every donor is unique, but not every conversation is. You can use common phrases repetitively. So every donor is unique, but you don't have to reinvent the conversation for each discussion. Reuse your common conversation statements. This will help you develop a muscle memory with your responses. So you can have a few standard questions for donors that can be reused. The need for conversation starters don't need to be unique, but the responses themselves will be. You want to try to make every single donor feel special, but in order not to drain your own battery, we don't want to reinvent the wheel each time. Imagine how you might feel going in for your first donation. It might be unnerving. Consider what you would want to hear from that first person who greets you in that situation. And if you are handling a repeat donor, consider learning a little bit about them. Find out how many times they've donated. When repeat donors come in, they want you to know who they are, and that makes them feel comfortable. Help persons feel seen and heard and appreciated. Helping someone feel heard is about more than listening. It's about showing them through actions and words that you are open to them. This will help you and your work run more smoothly, helping both you and them. Sometimes, to be sure that we're showing that we are listening and making someone feel seen, we can use mirror statements, such as when you're frustrated, you can say things like, I see you're frustrated. I would be frustrated in that situation as well. Examples of empathy statements that help one feel appreciated are, it was nice to chat with you today. Thanks for donating. What you did makes a difference. Thank you. Can anyone think of some good statements that they have used repetitively to thank a donor on their way out?
And feel free to come off mute, raise your hand, put them in the chat box. Caitlin says, thanks for saving lives today. That's a good one. Vicky says, you are taking time today is really appreciated. Yeah, especially for those long wait times. I think that takes an extra special person to wait sometimes. Mina says, it's donors like you who make our mission possible. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Yeah, those are some really good ones. Tom says, it's always important to thank everyone for donating when they arrive and leave. Yeah. That is one thing I usually do in my interviews with my my new blood donor ambassadors. I always tell them, thank them for donating or thank them for arriving for their appointments. And then post donation, I tell them make sure you're thanking them as they're coming in to establish that boundary. Okay, Helen, I think we can move on.
I'm going to pass it off to Rebecca to talk about the voice of the donor.
Not that one yet. Almost. When you're able to connect with the donor or others, it benefits you and them. Once you've been able to view the situation from their point of view, use these skills to connect with the other person. Helen, you want to go one more slide forward? Reframe your mindset, be present, be mindful, be in the moment for every team member, every donor, every time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do one more interaction. It's called the voice of the donor. So the phlebotomist was very cold and made the donor feel like they were doing something wrong. The donor stated that the phlebotomist picked a weird spot to insert the needle and caused the donor pain. The donor couldn't donate the full unit. The donor said they were made to feel like the entire thing was their fault. So I want to hear from you guys. For this scenario, how would you be present with this donor? How would you make that impact statement of every donor, every time, every day? Feel free to come off mute, raise your hand, put it in the chat box. You know, what are some things that we could do to be present and support the donor with this type of scenario? How can you be mindful? How can you recognize when others are being mindful? All right, looks like Letitia has her hand up.
Something similar happened on one of the donations. Their arm was hurting when they were in the snacks eating, and they mentioned the arm was really hurting. So then I asked one of the phlebotomists for like an ice pack, and they were able to get that. And so I think it's good, to touch base, obviously, with all of them. How are you feeling? But that was the one time I was glad I did, because they're like, oh, my arm's really hurting a lot. So that seemed to help. And I felt like, I was, I hope the donor felt, that we were concerned about them too.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I don't think you're alone in that decision. Dawn had said the same thing, offer them ice packs, to kind of ease that discomfort from that pain from the needle. And always remember, guys, just, reframe your mindset, right? Be present, be mindful, be in that moment with the donor, every team, every donor, every time. Looks like we have another hand up, and it is Jacqueline. Go ahead and come off mute, Jacqueline.
Thank you. So I had something like this happen to me when I was donating one time. I was doing platelets, and it wasn't that the phlebotomist was cold, though. They were wonderful, but because of the way the needle went into my vein, it wasn't able to return, and so I had to stop midway. And so I think, for something like this, I think one of the things that I would do to kind of help this donor would be to say, I had something similar happen to me one time, and it was a little scary. I was a little scared by what had happened, because that had never happened to me before. And, I was lucky enough to have a person who really walked me through the whole thing and really encouraged me to try again. So, it's hard to think about trying again right now, but give yourself a little time, and maybe the next time you donate, it's going to go so much better.
Yeah. And see, that's really great that you have that experience to be able to pull from, right? It's kind of one of those memories that Helen was speaking about in one of the previous slides. And when you guys deal with donors with these situations, or if you experience them yourselves, then it really does help from those experiences to be able to pull from that to really be present with these donors. You can go ahead and move on, Helen. It looks like we're done here with that slide. All right, so I do kind of want to wrap things up with a little bit of a quote, just to remind you guys that the great gift of human beings is that we do have the power of empathy, and that we can all sense a mysterious connection to each other. And this was actually written by Meryl Streep. So right. So now it's your turn. It's your turn to take these skills that we learned today. I hope you guys learned some things. It sounded like we had a pretty responsive group here, and it looks like you guys were all pretty empathetic in your own ways. So it looks like Barbara has her hand up. Go ahead and come off mute, Barbara.
Okay, I was just wondering, can we tell them if they have a bad experience with the phlebotomist that they could ask for a different one next time if they come back, or is that not okay?
You can tell them that they can request someone different, but I would definitely, once, the donors aren't present, right? Address that with the charge or if the supervisor is on staff and just let them know that they had a bad experience. Maybe that
Okay.
phlebotomist might just need a little bit of coaching, right? We want all of our phlebotomists to sort of be a good phlebotomist all around for all of them.
Right.
And it's not
Okay.
always our place to tell them, hey, you did something bad here. So definitely address it with a charge. Again, we don't know what that phlebotomist was going through or why they
Right.
acted that way.
And I have had someone ask for, but I don't want that phlebotomist. Can you, and then I just had to kind of like surreptitiously say something to the charge person, but it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it gets a little weird, but I will say I was in collections for a while, and when I transferred to sites, we have pretty regular donors. I don't know where you donate, Barbara, or where you volunteer at, but the sites typically, because we have those platelet donors and we're open hours of operation, we get some pretty regular donors, and so we do have donors that were so used to one phlebotomist, right? Because she had been there for 15 years and has always done their blood donations. So that's something to keep in mind too. Sometimes when they ask for a certain phlebotomist by name, it's because they had a good experience with them and they just want to keep them going.
Yeah.
If they're asking for not that specific phlebotomist, then yeah, I would just address that with the charge.
Okay.
Looks like we do have one more hand up. So go ahead and come off mute, Mina.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, like to deepen our understanding, like for the empathy and like its role in retaining like blood donors. So I'm now working as a medical assistant in a cardiology center, and like every day I have to see that like patient getting sticked with the needles before the stress test and things like that. So like I wanna give an example and highlight something important about empathy, from like my perspective. So like I hear people say often like I don't care, but like for us this should not be true. Like especially we are dealing with like the soul of our donors, not only their body and their blood. So like I think we're not like just dealing with a tank of blood. Like I know like I believe like no one like to go under an invasive procedure like such like sticking a needle in their veins and placing it. So like being empathic, like it's not only something on the shoulder of like one who gonna stick the donor. So the whole process begin from the volunteer who's like greeting the donor, the one who's entering like the donor's information, and the nurses who's collecting the blood. So like anything wrong during this process can stress the donor. And here we should know like that like empathetic communication like can help donors feel valued, heard, and like which in turns like reduce any tension in their muscles and their blood vessels. So as some of us know, like adrenaline is one of our stress hormones, and in case of a pathetic encounter of the donor, this can increase the adrenaline levels in their bloodstream and their body, and which make like the whole experience like more so like comforting the donors and showing them that we do care about them, like we do care how they feel, can go like a long way and can like lead for a better vein visibility, make it easier for nurses like accessing like the suitable vein for the IV placement, and having like a less experience, which overall will encourage like the donor to go through this experience again and again, which is our goal here in the Red Cross. So just I want like to mention that and like highlight it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mina, for sharing. I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead and stop recording in case anyone wants to say anything off of recording here.